All right. All right. So we're going to get into the show pretty quickly today, but just before we get into it, if you have tuned into the show before, you know the deal, you know why we're here, you know what we're doing. If you haven't, I want to give you a quick recap. The goal of this show is to help athletes. The goal of this show is to help athletes reach higher level versions of themselves in their sport. And the way we do this is we speak to all the issues that you guys face within training for your career. We speak to all the issues you guys face, whether it's training, whether it's mindset related, whether it is in actual competition itself, whatever it might be. We speak to the things that you guys are dealing with and tips and tricks that you guys can use to actually help yourselves level up in the sport as well. So today we're going to be talking about taking accountability for your success, and we're going to get things going in 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Elite Development Podcast, the number one show for athletes looking to gain an edge on their opponents and build their dream careers in sport. I'm your host, Kenny Dusseault, and today we are going to be talking about taking accountability for your success. Now, why are we talking about this today? The first reason that we are talking about taking accountability for your success is plain and simple. I am fucking sick of hearing excuses. I hear this every day when I speak to athletes. I'd be further along, or I would start to work with a strength coach, or I can't do it right now because there's always a reason why not. There's always, I have this big goal and it means so much to me and I'm so ready to go all in. And then the second they actually have to go all in, the answer now becomes, oh, now's just not the right time for this. I've got this going on, or I've got that going on, or, some other reason why I can't truly commit to the success I say that I want in my career. Now, look, I get it. There is always a reason not to commit to yourself. There is always a reason to push it off to later. There is always a reason not to invest in the coaching you need right now, not to put that extra time into developing yourself as an athlete right now, not to, go to that other gym and get some extra work in with different people. There's always a reason not to start taking your nutrition more seriously right now. There's a birthday coming up, a holiday coming up, there's whatever. There's always a reason not to. And more than anything, I know what it used to be for me and what I see in a lot of athletes, plain and simple, is fear. It's scary to think of how much work it's going to take to go into truly achieving high level goals in anything. It's hard, but guess what? If you're not willing to do it, you don't get that thing. It is scary to think about putting so much work into achieving a high level goal and potentially not even getting there. Because guess what? You can work every single day and not achieve that ultimate dream you have for your career. It's possible. You never know what tomorrow holds. And that's just an unfortunate part, but also fortunate part of being a human being. But if you are not willing to do the work, if you are not willing to make the sacrifices, if you are not willing to make the investments in yourself, you don't get that thing. That is how it works. You don't get that thing. You don't become a UFC champion by not having enough time to lift 2 to 3 times a week. You don't make it to the Olympics by not having the money for proper coaching. You talking about how badly you want it doesn't mean shit unless you're willing to make the sacrifices you need to make and willing to make the investments you need to make in order to achieve it. Let that sink in. And listen, the important thing I wanted to touch on here is I'm not coming at you from some place of superiority that, I just have it magically figured out that you can just never make excuses or anything like that. I'm coming at you because this used to be me. Back in the day as an athlete and even within my coaching career as well, I always had a reason not to take a step forward. I always had a reason not to do the thing. I never had enough money to invest in myself. As a business owner, I never had the money to, invest in coaches for myself or, invest in new equipment or invest in, whatever it might be that was going to help take my business to the next level. As an athlete, I never had the money to invest in a coach. So I disillusioned myself into thinking that I didn't need one. And in turn, that led to me not training properly because I was young and dumb and didn't know how to do it. And as I continued to train and continued to train improperly, I started making mistakes. And as I started making more mistakes, what happened? I started getting hurt. And I started getting hurt. What happened? My career was cut short. And this is what I want to avoid happening to you. I want you to understand that, yes, I understand proper coaching costs money. Proper recovery costs money. Proper nutrition costs money. Everything about becoming the athlete you're looking to become costs money. But if you are not willing to put that into yourself, if you are not willing to make those investments and those sacrifices, that is going to come back and bite you in the ass. And coming back to my own story, we talked a little bit about the money, but the same thing with me. I was always too busy to invest in, doing the extra work, doing the mobility work and all of that recovery stuff that was going to actually help me further myself as an athlete. I had every excuse in the book for why I wasn't further along in my career at all times. Oh, I'm dealing with this injury right now, so I haven't been able to train properly. And like exams were really busy this year, so I had to say no to going to nationals. I didn't have to say no to going to nationals. I didn't fucking make it. And I didn't fucking make it because I was training like an idiot, not willing to make the proper investment in myself in order to reach the next level. But I didn't want to admit that to other people because that felt bad. Now, instead of just admitting to myself that I wasn't as far along as I wanted to be, I had all the excuses laid out for why I wasn't further along. And in turn, that served me in absolutely no way other than protecting my ego. So if this sounds a little bit like you, and it takes some self-awareness to actually let this click in, but if this sounds a little bit like you, if you have found yourself in those positions where you're making excuses about things you really know aren't real, and you're not as far along as you'd like to be, but you've got, however many reasons in the book for why you're not there yet, or anything like that. If this sounds like you, now what do you do about it? Because I want to really reinforce what I said earlier. If you are not willing to make the sacrifices, if you are not willing to make the investment in yourself, if you are not willing to do the work necessary, you don't get that thing. Whatever that goal is for you, you don't get to achieve it. Plain and simple. Because as you're telling yourself, I'm too busy to lift 2 to 3 times a week, or I don't have the money right now to really start dialing in my nutrition and learning the ins and outs of weight cutting, or whatever else it might be, whatever else it is you're telling yourself, guess what? Your competition is out there lifting 2 to 3 times a week. Your competition is out there getting their nutrition dialed in and working with the professionals they need to work with in order to help themselves reach the next level. And if you're not doing it now, they're pulling ahead of you. And if they're pulling ahead of you, what happens when you guys meet? They win. That's it. So if this is sounding like you, what do you do about it? How do you flip that switch? And how do you become the person who stops making excuses, starts taking their career more seriously, and starts actually understanding that your success is up to you and nobody or nothing else? So the first thing you need to do is get clear on your why. Why is it that you want to be an athlete? Why is it that you want to be a UFC champion, that you want to make the Olympic team, that whatever it is you want, why do you want it? And it would be really cool isn't deep enough. Because when it comes down to budgeting out your last dollar so that you can get all the help you need, when it comes down to scheduling out your week and having to say no to friends on the weekend, all of these things, it's a cool career isn't going to be enough to make you make the right choices. So why is it that you want to be an athlete for a living instead of living the easy life and going to, work at that 9 to 5? What does this mean for your future? What does this mean for your family? What does this mean for the life that you get to live and the example you get to set for the people around you? Get clear on why you are here. Get clear on what it is you're working for. And a career in sport, again, not deep enough. How far do you want to get? How much money do you want to make? What kind of life do you want to be able to provide your family? Because getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go train, or, doing that second session in the evening after a full day of work when you're already sore, everything like that. If you're thinking about it and you're thinking it'll be a cool career, that's really not a lot to motivate you to actually go get that session done. But in that same situation, you're trying to wake yourself up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go train, or you're trying to do that second, third session late at night after you're already sore, things hurt, you really don't want to do it. And now, if you're thinking, becoming an athlete is going to allow me to provide my family with a better life, and in turn is going to allow me to set the example for my future children that you can be whatever the fuck you want to be in the world, how much more likely are you to get your ass off the couch and go do that last session? How much more likely are you to say, fuck the excuses, I'm going to go get it done because of what I'm working for? So get clear on the why, get clear on why you're here, get clear on what you're doing. And in turn, you're going to be able to push yourself through those more difficult days. Now, number 2 is reframe your language. This one was huge for me. When I would catch myself making excuses, I can't remember who it was that I heard say this in the first place. I think it was Gary Vaynerchuk, for those who know who that is. If you don't, look him up. Great for some motivation. Great for some small business advice if you're a business owner too. But basically, I remember hearing him say, you need to reframe your language and you need to keep your personal power. I think it was Gary V. It might not be. Don't quote me on that. If it's not, I apologize. But you need to reframe your language to keep your personal power. Every single time you say, I can't because, and then you insert a reason why you can't make it to the gym, eat the right meal, get a good amount of sleep at night, lift weights, whatever it is you need to be doing that you're telling yourself you can't do, and you give a reason, immediately you're saying it's out of my control, I can't do it, and that's that. What does that do? The second you're telling yourself you can't do something that you know you need to be doing, immediately you're putting it out into the world saying, it's not my fault, it's someone else's fault. But guess what? Your sport doesn't give a fuck. Your opponents don't give a fuck if you couldn't do it because you were busy. When you two meet and they've been doing the right work and you haven't, you're still going to get your ass kicked, even if you were busy. So what you need to do is you need to reframe your language. When it comes to making an excuse, every time you hear yourself say, I would, but, or I can't because, or give any kind of reason why you can't do something, switch the language. Maybe right now you're too busy to get 3 good strength and conditioning sessions in per week. It happens. I've seen it. But instead of saying I can't because I'm too busy, reframe the language and ask yourself, how can I? Because now immediately you're keeping that personal power and you're saying, there's something I can do about this. I'm not in the optimal situation right now, but what do I need to do to put myself in a better situation in order to be able to do the things I know I need to do to achieve the goals I want for my career? Because I hate to say it, well, actually I don't hate to say it because I've been yelling it from the rooftops for years. Becoming an athlete requires strength and conditioning done properly. It just does. Like if you're not lifting weights, if you're not getting strong, if you're not hitting your energy systems effectively throughout your week, you're just not going to get anywhere. Or you might get somewhere on your skill alone, but you're not going to get as far as you actually could. You're not going to reach your true potential because you're not fucking doing the work. Even if you're doing a lot of work, if you're not doing the right things, you have a cap on how far you can go. Plain and simple. So instead of saying, I can't because I don't have the time to do my 2 to 3 lifts a week, ask yourself, how can I make the time? Where am I spending time right now that I don't need to be spending? How much TV am I watching every night? What time am I getting up in the morning? What time am I going to bed at night? Can I buy some equipment for my home to be able to train at home? I have plenty of athletes that train at home. If I can't buy equipment to train at home, is there a gym closer to my house? Can I do, 3 20 to 30 minute strength and conditioning sessions a week instead of making an hour and a half? Even if it's not optimal, Figure out how you can do something and start pushing yourself towards that goal instead of just saying, I can't do it because I'm busy. Because the I can't do it because I'm busy guy fucking loses. The person who's willing to figure it the fuck out is the one who's going to get further every single time. So number 2 is reframe your language. Number 3 is I need you to understand that if you are going to flip the switch and you are actually going to start reaching your true potential in life or as an athlete, everything in your life is your fault. Good and bad. Everything in your life is your fault. This was for sure a Gary Vaynerchuk quote. And I remember the context. He talked about how everything in his own life was his own fault. And that's the way he viewed life. And the reason he views life that way is because in order to keep your personal power, like we just talked about, you need to be in charge at all times. So he said, even when things aren't his fault, he views them as his fault. He went as extreme as saying, even if he got hit by a bus, he would frame that as, well, I shouldn't have left the house at that time so that I was on the curb at that time to be able to get hit by that bus. I should have left 2 minutes earlier so that I crossed the street before the bus hit me. Obviously, an extreme example. I'm not sitting here saying that if you got hit by a bus, you're the one to blame. But if you can approach everything in your life as if it is your fault, you don't have the money to invest in the coach you want to invest in, well, that's your fault. How do you find more money? How do you get a raise at your current job? How do you find a new job that can pay you more? What can you do on the weekends to make more money? Where are you spending your money right now that you don't need to be spending it, that you could be investing in that coaching or into yourself and your future and your career? Everything in your life is your fault, both good and bad. That's the same thing as when I'm working with an athlete and they get an incredible result in their sport. They, come to me with issues with their gas tank, and then 6 to 8 weeks later, they go perform and their gas tank is on point. Everything feels good, and they just dominate in the ring or the cage. Happens pretty often, but every time that happens, I'm not sitting here saying, I made this athlete and it's all because of me that they won. No, it's them that had to do the work. Yes, I helped. I gave them the tools. But if you are one of my athletes listening to this, you win because of you, not because of me. Yeah, I give you some tools that allow you to be more successful, but you have to implement them for them to be effective. So you win because of you. Just like you lose because of you. Just like if you don't implement the tools, you don't get the results because of you. Not because the tools weren't there, but because you didn't implement them correctly. And then to flip that on my side, if I'm working with an athlete and they're not implementing what I'm giving them, instead of me pointing the finger at them and saying, you need to implement, I'm pointing the finger back at myself and saying, what can I do to better show you the value of what we've got here so that you will implement? How can I help you further? What else do you need from me to be able to better implement these programs and see the results I want you to see back in your sport? Everything in your life is your fault, because if it's your fault, you can fix it, or you can change it, or you can improve upon it. Whereas if you just point the finger and say, well, I didn't win because, this, that, or the other thing, now you're straight up telling yourself, I'm not good enough and there's nothing I can do about it. But if you say, I didn't win, so these are the 3 to 5 things I need to work on in order to make sure I win next time, now you can come away from that with a plan. You can come away from that with something to do and something to improve upon and something that is actually going to help you move forward. Because everything in your life is your fault. Now, number 4, and this is the last one we want to talk about today, the 4th thing that you need to do to start taking more accountability for your success is cutting out bad habits. Now, listen, you can spend your weekends doing what you want. You can spend your time doing what you want. You can spend your money on whatever the hell you want. I'm not here to tell you what to do. What I'm here to tell you, though, is that if you're going out to the bars drinking every weekend and then complaining about how you're not improving as much as you want to as an athlete, that's not because of bad coaching. That's not because of, bad training partners. That's not because of this or because of that or because of anything else. That's because of fucking you. That's because you're sitting here saying, I want to win a world championship, but also I don't want to go home before 2:00 in the fucking morning on Saturday, even though I train on Sunday. It's because of you. Now, again, I'm not sitting here telling you not to do it, but understand that if you're going to spend your weekends acting like a fucking college student or acting like a fucking idiot, and then wondering why you're not making incredible strides in your athletic career, the fuck are we doing? I don't know what to tell you. You're not making the strides you want to make because you're spending your time doing shit that is moving you further away from the goals you have. So cut the fucking drinking out. Cut the fucking 3 hours of Netflix every night out. Cut the fucking shitty food out. Cut out the things that are moving you further away from the goals if you want to make more progress towards them. Now, again, I'm not coming in here from a place of perfection. I'm not coming in here from a place of superiority. I still watch some TV. I don't drink at all anymore because that was one bad habit that I realized was really taking away from the goals I have in my business. So I cut it out. But I still watch some TV. I still eat some shitty food from time to time. I'm not sitting here saying it has to be a all or nothing thing. But I also understand that I'm at the level I'm at right now due to the habits that I currently have. And I understand that if I want my business to reach new, higher heights, there are habits that I have in my life right now that I'm going to have to cut out. So the same thing for you. If you're sitting here right now saying, I don't have time to lift weights 2 to 3 times a week, but you're watching an hour of Netflix every fucking night, understand it's not that you don't have time. It's that your fucking priorities are dog shit. If you're sitting here saying, I don't have the money to invest in proper coaching right now, and you live in a 2,000 square foot house instead of a 700 square foot apartment, you have the money. You just chose to put it somewhere else. Or the same thing, I don't have the money to invest in proper coaching right now, but you stop at Starbucks every day on your way to work and buy a $7 coffee. $7 times 5 days, $35 a week, which would be $140 a month. That alone is a good chunk of what you would need to spend on a training program for the month. So instead of looking and saying, I don't have the money, I don't have the time, I would, but I can't because any of these excuses that I hear on a daily fucking basis, start asking yourself, how can I? Start asking yourself, what habits do I have right now that me at the next level shouldn't have? What am I doing right now that's holding me back? What am I doing right now that's not allowing me to reach the levels I want to reach? And as soon as you're able to come up with those answers and actually make those changes, you're going to see more success. Because I've said it from the start of this podcast, and I will say it until I'm blue in the fucking face. You talking about how badly you want to reach the top, or how badly you want to make millions of dollars in your sport, or how badly you want to achieve this or achieve that, doesn't mean shit unless you're willing to make the sacrifices required to get there. It doesn't mean shit unless you're willing to do the work that it takes to get there. So if you're not willing to do the work, that's fine, but stop fucking telling people that you're going to be a UFC champion one day, because you're not. And if you truly want to become a UFC champion one day, you truly want to win a world championship, whatever other sport you're in, make millions of dollars in your sport, compete at the highest level, take it as far as you can, all these things I hear athletes say to me, then understand you need to make a fucking change. So from this show, pick what area you need to make the biggest change right now. Is it the language you're using? Is it a lack of clarity in your vision? Is it, understanding accountability? Is it bad habits that you have? What is it that you're doing right now that's stopping you from reaching that level you want to be at? And whatever it is you're doing, start understanding that it is up to you to change it. You can sit here and use it as an excuse all fucking day, but that's not getting you anywhere. That's not making an improvement for you. But if you're willing to do the work to change it, now you're going to be able to actually make the difference you're looking to make and actually achieve those things you say you want so badly. And that is ultimately what I want for you. That is ultimately why I'm here, why I do this podcast. So that's it. That's all. I hope you got some good value from this. I hope you are able to take something away from this to apply directly to your career. And whatever it is you do take away, I would love to hear what it is. Shoot me a message on whatever platform you are seeing the show on, or if you're listening back on the podcast, make sure to drop me a review and then send me a message on social media telling me what it is you're taking away from the show. And my one ask of you all, if you've gotten value from the podcast before, make sure to share this show with a teammate, with a friend, with someone who is going to benefit from hearing this message. So thank you. I appreciate you. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and we'll talk.